The third branch of municipal government is the judicial branch, which consists of the municipal court. The municipal court judge has city and county-wide jurisdiction, so if a minor criminal offense is committed in Belpre, the case would be heard in the municipal court in Marietta. A person might go to municipal court for motor vehicle infractions, municipal ordinance violations, property disputes, small dollar theft, and fish and game violations. Citizens may be called to be on a jury in municipal court. Here you see the Ohio court structure, starting at the top with the Supreme Court of Ohio, followed by the Court of Appeals. Then you have the Court of Common Pleas and the Court of Claims and the Municipal Court, all having equal status, just taking care of different types of judicial cases.
Hello, my name is Joyce Robinson, and I'm here representing Living Democracy, Engaging Citizens, and I'm here with Judge Welch, and we're going to talk about the court system here in Marietta. And thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. How do you become a municipal court judge? What's involved with the process?
Well, the statutory qualifications for being a municipal court judge are, of course, first you have to be a lawyer. Second, under the statute, you're required to have basically 6 years of experience as an attorney.
Wow.
But I've been municipal court judge since then, and municipal court, actually all judges in Ohio serve 6-year terms, so I am now in my third 6-year term, and I am serving my last year of that.
And will you run for another 6 years? Or
No,
you decided?
No, I'm decided.
Okay.
It's really, it was a difficult decision, but I'm retiring. I could run again, but I'm choosing to retire and then let somebody else take this over and continue, hopefully, what they believe to be the good progress with me. But no, I'm done.
I'm sorry to hear that, but I understand it. How many cases do you generally hear in a year?
I didn't bring those numbers with me, but this Marietta Municipal Court's probably right around in the middle in the 300 and some municipal and county courts that we have in Ohio. And I frankly don't remember how many. It's somewhere between 10 and 12 to 13,000.
Wow.
Now, a number of them are traffic cases, of course, minor misdemeanor traffic cases, but no, I think we have somewhere around that number of cases. And the numbers are down a little bit. We've now been in a different era for the last 3 years, so it's affected everything, including the courts.
What are your top responsibilities as a judge?
Well, the top responsibility, of course, is we swear an allegiance to the Constitution of the United States, Constitution of the State of Ohio, and the laws of the State of Ohio. Part of that, of course, is to apply the laws fairly and consistently. And I think, particularly at the municipal court level, that's what people expect. You need to have consistency between similar people with similar backgrounds, with similar offenses, when you're dealing with the criminal and traffic side of the court. On the civil side of the court, again, people like to believe they need to understand that whatever the result is what's dictated by the law and the evidence, not by any sort of partisan favor, because somebody, whoever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I applaud all your work that you do every day for the courts. I understand you have a mental health court here. Well, could you explain that program, how effective it is, and how long it's been going on?
Okay, so let me back up a little bit. The municipal court, all courts in Ohio, the courts of common pleas, the municipal courts, the juvenile courts, all of them have the opportunity to develop and to be certified to offer specialized dockets within the court. This court has a specialized docket called the mental health docket. The mental health docket has a very special, let me see, I'm going to bring it up. There's the mission statement of the mental health docket with the court. We have been certified by the Ohio Supreme Court. The mental health docket is dedicated to people who are in municipal court for criminal offenses, who are diagnosed with severe and persistent mental disorders, or severe and persistent mental illnesses, who are also at a high risk of future criminal behavior. So this specialized docket is devoted to properly serving that target population, and it is a wraparound program. It's difficult for them to live comfortably in a community and for the community to live comfortably with them. This is sort of an outgrowth, I would say, from several years of being involved with the crisis intervention and de-escalation training, which is, of course, focused, obviously by its name, on de-escalation of individuals who are in a mental health crisis. That's conducted by law enforcement, and I've been very pleased with seeing how it's evolved and seeing how successful it is within the community, but still there are people who come into the criminal justice system who fit this definition, and this is a program designed for them. It's 18 months long, although it can be extended if there are hiccups. I guess my 18th year. So the probation department's also evolved over that time. I took a look before we started and pulled out one of my annual reports from a few years ago, because although we don't have a drug court docket, based on how people assess who are on probation. If they assess by a certified outside provider with a substance abuse disorder that requires a residential type treatment to address successfully, as opposed to counseling or as opposed to intensive outpatient services, then that's where we direct them. Last year, the probation office, there were, 78 individuals who were on probation who were assessed with a substance abuse disorder that required that required residential treatment as opposed to intensive outpatient. So we referred, not me personally, but my staff, referred and placed those 78 people in certified residential facilities, and we worked with 14 different facilities. Part of it's availability, part of it is the type of program or something about the person that makes one placement a little more appropriate than others. But then looking back, I look back to like 2016. Okay, 6 years before. This is the 2022 report. Here's the 2016 report. Again, we have evolved in the type of services we provide, but also I think that's a reflection of what's going on within this community as well, with the prevalence of the substance abuse problem and the number of people would end up with a disorder. So in 2016, we municipal court referred 19 people to inpatient treatment compared to last year, 2022, and that number had grown to, or exploded to 78. Mm-hmm. But even back then, we were referring people to intensive outpatient and so forth. So to those with the highest needs for services.
I would say it's probably fairly successful. Do you agree with that?
It's encouraging.
Okay.
Sometimes success is preceded by multiple failures. Mm-hmm. And of course we have multiple failures with some people, and eventually they become successful. We also have some who unfortunately didn't make it. So, and I mean, mm-hmm. They overdosed, yes. Or they.
But it's
they got them.
But it's something that didn't exist before. So
It's been evolving. I don't want to say, I mean, my predecessor started the department and got it up and running. And this is just continued evolution of the program, which is evolving partly because of state initiatives to reduce state institutionalization, which put pressures on the jail, which put pressures or on the municipal level to divert more people from jail. However, if in fact this works better, then this is what we need to do.
Okay.
I mean, I can't, I think that's really what we come down to. Whatever works is what we need to do, while at the same time remembering that we are to be consistent and fair, but also a criminal conviction requires punishment. So this guides the punishment. We still have restitution, we have community service, we have education classes, we have other counseling, and we have jail. I mean, there's reasons why that jail's over there, and sometimes we have to put people there.
Well, there's lots of options
True.
that weren't there before. I'd like to ask you about a magistrate. What exactly is a magistrate? What is their role at the court, and how do you become one?
Well, a magistrate, of course, has to be an attorney, although apparently it's not that way in all jurisdictions. In Ohio, a magistrate is required to be an attorney. I have one magistrate on staff. She is part-time. She handles primarily a civil docket. I guess you have to have 4 years of experience to be a magistrate. I never worried about it with my magistrate because she's been practicing as long as I've been practicing. She's got a terrific background in civil law, so I don't really worry about the minimum requirements because I know she satisfies every one of them.
So the magistrate handles the civil cases. Can you give me a couple examples of a civil case?
Certainly, the jurisdiction on municipal court is up to $15,000, but the type of cases that I think are most evident to people are forcible entry and detainer, which commonly you call an eviction case.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a rental property and I rented from you, and for whatever reason you needed me removed from that property, for instance, perhaps I didn't pay the rent, you don't have a right under Ohio statutes to shut off the utilities, back a moving truck up to my door and move my stuff outside. Since it's my home, I have a right to some sort of due process, so you have to file an eviction. There's some paperwork that needs to be filed, a procedure that needs to be filed, but once you file that, that gets the case into court, and then you have a hearing in front of the magistrate, in front of me if she happens to be out for a few days. And that is typically the case that most people have contact with the civil side of the court. Other ones you have debt collection or some contracts. You also have something called replevin, which is a civil action to demand a return of personal property. But she handles most of those civil cases. I do when she's out. The other side of the court, which is the side that most people think about when they think about court, is the criminal and traffic side. Although, frankly, there's a lot more civil than people realize. We had over 1,000 cases. We've been averaging 1,400 civil cases, which are generally a little more involved. But on the traffic and criminal side, let me explain what happens. This is a misdemeanor court, but if you are arrested tonight for a felony, you will be in municipal court in the morning because you're going to end up, in all likelihood, in the Washington County Jail. I will hold your initial appearance in the morning. You'll be appearing by Zoom from the Washington County Jail, and I will be in the courtroom. So I do the initial appearances on felonies, felony arrest. I set the bond, which takes it, considers your likelihood of appearing, your risk to the community, any public safety concerns, any concerns of victims, whether or not there's a protection order issued. I also make sure that you have legal counsel, whether it's appointed counsel or I give you a continuance and you retain counsel. and then I set a preliminary hearing and hold a preliminary hearing here in this court within a short period. That timeline is either 10 to 15 days, depending on incarceration. So that's the felony side. So there are some felonies, they begin here if as a result of the preliminary hearing, the case is, I find probable cause to believe a felony was committed and that you committed it, then that case is bound over to common pleas court for consideration by the grand jury. So let me just, and I'll come back to the rest of what municipal court does, but just to make it clear, if you'll look at the screen, this is basically a flow chart, I guess you could say, of the legal system in Ohio. This is on the Supreme Court's website. So you can say, yes, we are at the bottom. But what it explains is that if you look, the Court of Common Pleas, General Division, that it would be what Judge Careni and Judge Halliday preside over. They also are all over domestic relations, but they handle the larger civil cases. They handle the felony criminals, and they handle appeals from administrative agencies. Basically, the most common type would be from maybe workers' comp or an appeal from an unemployment claim. So, but you'll note that it's not like municipal court reports to common pleas court, or that the Court of Claims reports to common pleas court. We all have different functions. So they handle the serious criminal cases, they handle the common pleas, or they handle domestic relations. They also, Judge Williams handles both the probate and juvenile division. So the juvenile division obviously are delinquencies, dependency, neglect, and abuse, adoptions, paternity cases. Probate obviously is pretty evident by its name, which would be decedents' estates, guardianships, incompetencies, and matters like that, civil commitments. They also issue the marriage licenses. So each one of these courts, depending on what your need is for some sort of court action, this chart will tell you basically what court you go to. So under municipal court, it says misdemeanor offenses, traffic cases, civil actions up to 15. It's a little more involved than that, but that's okay. That's a summary that's good place for people to start. So on the misdemeanor offenses, such as the traffic case, if you received a traffic citation and you wish to contest it, you would appear in the court or file a written not guilty. And we would set the matter for a pretrial and then ultimately a trial if that's what you want. A misdemeanor, a minor misdemeanor, one for which there is no possible jail sentence, does not carry a jury. You don't get a jury trial. If you're charged with more serious offenses, where jail is a possibility, if you wish to have the services of a lawyer and you can't afford one, then one will be appointed for you, and you have a right to a jury trial. We don't seem to have as many jury trials as we used to. I think the numbers are down all across the state. But if we have jury trials here, they are for misdemeanor offenses. Misdemeanors start here and end here.
And how is the jury selected?
If I have a jury trial, I call in a number of people to serve on the panel. It depends on the type of case. Sometimes call a few more depending on whether I think they'll be going through a lot. In any event, in municipal court is on a criminal case. There are 8 jurors and then generally only one alternate, because the trials are almost always one day. So I don't need to plan for too many illnesses. So, and then the criminal juries have to be unanimous, so they have to be 8-zip either way.
Okay.
So the other part of what the municipal court does that it's not on that list, because these are cases that are filed in court, is how does the case get started in the first place? If there's an investigation of what appears to be a criminal act, the court can issue a warrant or a summons. So if there's an investigation and they believe a crime was committed and you're the person who committed it, they can submit a probable cause state affidavit to me. I can review it, decide whether or not I believe it was a crime committed, you're the person who committed it, and then issue either a summons, certified mail, or a warrant, depending on circumstances, for you to be brought in. Now that includes felony. So, I mean, I know that this court is primarily misdemeanors, but for arrest purposes, it does include that. It also includes search warrants. Most of the search warrants, and this has to do with how warrants are reviewed, are some have to be issued by a common pleas judge, but most of them are issued by any court of record, so Judge Williams or myself, because what those warrants generally involve are felony offenses. Somebody other than a felony court would normally issue it, so that way you're not reviewing your own work. I mean, I can look at what I did, and it's always looks good to me. But if you review it, then you have a disinterest in it, and so so that is a fair amount. So there isn't any 9 to 5 in this work, which is fine. I like it that way.
Good. So long hours, long days.
Sometimes, and then it's sometimes. Well, I had 2 phone calls and an email last night about that. I think that was around 8 or 9 o'clock. I mean, there's things I need to take care of. That's part of what we do.
Can you take a week off?
When I do take a week off, I appoint somebody who can stand in my place while I'm gone. I mean, the work doesn't go away. I have to have somebody. So I have acting judges. So if I need to, for instance, if I have some kind of medical matter and I need to be gone all day or for a few days, or if I want to take a vacation, whatever, then I appoint an acting judge, which is provided for by statute, to cover me, including anything at night or on weekends.
So since you're retired, will you be an acting judge in the future? Or haven't you
There's some limitations. There's some limitations on how that's done. There are limitations on what you can do once you're retired. I believe I have the ability to serve as an assigned judge if I apply and if the Chief Justice would approve me. So we'll see how that all works out.
Okay. You mentioned the state ID. Is the state ID acceptable for voting in Ohio now that they've changed the law? Or you must have a driver's license with a picture on it? What is the status on that?
Okay, now I cannot, voting requirements are probably best addressed by the Board of Elections. And have I followed it as much as I should have? No, I haven't. It's not going to be an issue that ever comes up in municipal court. However, I did see that the state is providing opportunities that, you need to have a picture ID. I understand you need to have a picture ID. I understand it needs to be an official ID, and that further that the state is providing that at no cost. Now, did I actually read that, or is this something I just saw on the internet? I saw it on the internet, so I'm not going to swear by that one, but I understand that's what it is. You have to have an official government-issued ID, and that it is being provided at no cost if you aren't able to afford it. However, please direct that to the Board of Elections.
So that we just might do that. That's a good idea. I have no more questions for you, Judge. This has been a very interesting interview. I've learned a lot about the court system. I thank you so much for your time.
To form a more perfect union, we wrote a constitution and a bill of rights for life and liberty. In democracy, we carry responsibilities. In democracy, we need everyone to see that our democracy is counting on you.